Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Claire's Circle. Today, we're going to talk about what truly makes a family. Is it the blood that runs through our veins? Or is it the love, the care, and the support we receive every day? What happens when those two concepts come into brutal conflict? This story comes from a subscriber named Grace. She was adopted as an infant into the most loving family imaginable, but her own pregnancy has forced her to embark on a search for her biological roots, a search that threatens to break the hearts of the only parents she's ever known. She has found herself facing a choice with no right answer. Grace is 30, and her husband Leo is 32. She begins her letter by describing her childhood, which she calls idyllic. Her parents, Mary and David, adopted her when she was just a few days old. They never made a secret of it. From the earliest age, Grace knew she was adopted, but the word held no negative meaning for her. It was just a fact, like the color of her eyes. Her parents surrounded her with such an ocean of love, acceptance, and support that she never felt like anything was missing or that she was different. They were her mom and dad in every sense of the word. Her adoption was a closed adoption, which was standard practice at the time. This meant her records contained no information about her birth parents, and truthfully, it never bothered her. She didn't have that existential crisis you see in the movies. She had no burning desire to find her real mother. Her real mother was right there every day, reading her books at night, patching up her scraped knees, and cheering at every school play. Grace grew up, got an education, married a wonderful man, Leo, and they decided they were ready to start their own family. When she got pregnant, her parents, Mary and David, were over the moon. They were buying baby clothes, debating who their first grandchild would look like, and planning how they would help the new parents. Everything was perfect. The problem arose where no one expected it, in a genetic counseling office. During one of her first prenatal visits, she was referred for genetic counseling, a standard procedure. The counselor began asking about family medical history. Were there any cases of cancer, heart disease, cystic fibrosis, Huntington's disease, and so on? Grace calmly explained that she was adopted and had no access to that information. The counselor nodded with understanding and explained that while most pregnancies proceed without issue, knowing the family history can help identify risks and allow for more accurate screenings for the baby. He mentioned that in their state, there are legal procedures to unseal adoption records for medical reasons. He wasn't insisting, merely providing information. That evening, Grace and Leo discussed it. For both of them, the decision was obvious. This wasn't an emotional impulse or a search for identity. It was their first act of parenting, a pragmatic, responsible step to get as much information as possible for the health of their future child. Leo was completely supportive. They decided it was the right and logical thing to do. Confident in her close and trusting relationship with her parents, Grace decided not to keep this a secret. She invited Mary and David over for dinner to tell them about her plan. She cooked their favorite meal, created a cozy atmosphere, and after dinner, she began the conversation. She calmly and methodically explained the situation. She stressed that this was being done exclusively for medical reasons, for their future grandchild. She repeated several times how much she loves them, that they are her only real parents, and that this would change nothing about her feelings for them. She expected understanding, maybe a little sadness, but ultimately support. Her mother's reaction was like an explosion. Mary looked at her, and her eyes filled with tears. "So now that you're having your own real family, you don't need us anymore?" she asked, her voice trembling. Grace was stunned. "Mom, what does that have to do with anything? I'm talking about the baby's health." But Mary wasn't listening anymore. She was overcome with pain, and as Grace now understands, a deeply hidden fear. Did we do something wrong? Were we bad parents that you've decided to search for your birth mother? In her mouth, the words birth mother sounded like an insult. David, her father, who was usually a rock of tranquility, sat with a stone-cold face and remained silent, supporting his wife with his entire being. Grace tried to argue, to explain, to get through to them, but her every attempt to frame it as a medical necessity was received as a personal betrayal. Her parents accused her of being selfish, ungrateful, of not thinking about their feelings after everything they had done for her. The dinner ended with them leaving and slamming the door, leaving a pregnant Grace in tears. From that day on, their relationship changed. The joyful anticipation of a grandchild was replaced by a tense silence. Mary and David grew distant. They called less often, and the conversations were strained. Her mother constantly made passive-aggressive comments. "So, any news from your other family?" Or, "I hope you find what you're looking for, since we clearly couldn't give it to you." Every one of those conversations was like a knife to Grace's heart. The support and love she had expected to receive during her pregnancy were replaced by guilt and constant stress. The legal process moved forward. A few days ago, her lawyer informed Grace that her petition had been approved, and in a few days she would receive access to the sealed records. She knew she had to tell her parents, in a last-ditch effort at reconciliation. She called them. The conversation was short. She told them the news. And then her mother delivered the ultimatum. "Grace," Mary said, her voice as cold as ice, "if you open that file, if you contact that woman, you will be making a choice. You will be choosing a biological stranger over the people who raised you, who loved you every day of your life. I don't think I can have a relationship with you if you do this. It will be too painful." And she hung up. And so now Grace sits in the nursery that she and Leo have nearly finished setting up. In her hands, she has the notification from her lawyer, and in her heart, there is a giant hole. She's facing an impossible choice. On one side is potentially vital information for her unborn child. On the other is the love and acceptance of the people who are her entire world. Her whole life, her parents told her they loved her unconditionally, and now they've put a condition on that love. She ended her letter with a question. "Am I the asshole for continuing the search for my biological mother for medical reasons, even if it means potentially losing my adoptive parents forever? Am I being selfish for causing them this pain, or are they the ones being selfish by asking me to ignore a medical necessity for the sake of their feelings and insecurities?"